Everybody, Steve Prasbrowski here. Welcome to Tip 89, the series 101 Tips to Ace Your Promotional Examination. As a reminder, my website on the screen there has lots of great free stuff. If you haven't checked it out, please do so. I think you'll find it very valuable. And this series is based on my latest book of the same name, published by Fire Engineering Books and Videos, and available off their website as well as mine below. All right, Tip 89. Never give up. 3 words, pretty simple. Now, never give up. Easier said than done, isn't it? It's amazing. I remember when I became a firefighter, I was fortunate enough after I got off probation to have enough money saved over the years. My parents helped me out. I repaid them, but I was able to put a down payment on a house. Excuse me. And I remember moving into the house and starting to meet my neighbors. And I remember neighbor across the street comes over, looked exactly like me, white male, maybe in his, what was I, maybe 30 years old, give or take at the time. And we just started talking, and it's like, hey, what do you do for a living? He says, I work in, construction, whatever. And he's like, he goes, what do you do? I go, I'm a firefighter, blah, blah. Really? We started talking. He goes, yeah. He goes, I tried to be a firefighter. He goes, I go, well, what happened? Obviously works in construction. He goes, I threw the towel in. And of course, really, what happened? He goes, well, I took fire science classes at Mission College, our local college that offers a fire technology degree. He goes, I took classes there, took some tests, but they weren't hiring white guys back in the, the 90s there. So I just gave it up, throwing the towel. I'm doing okay with construction now. Oh, okay. And I go, for some reason, I had the epiphany to ask, how many tests did you take? Because over the course of 4.5 years of testing to become a firefighter in the early 90s, 4.5 years, I took about 50 different entry-level tests. And before you laugh and say I'm a loser, because it took me 4.5 years, 50 some tests, let me throw a disclaimer out there. Of those 50 tests, about half of them were random lotteries that I didn't even make. So I was probably about 0 for 25, give or take, on random lotteries. Well, I think you got a better chance of hitting the lottery than 0 for 25 and random. I don't think they're that random if I was 0 for 25, but that's okay. But still, my point is that, hey, it took me a number of tests. And before you say, oh my God, what a loser, that's very common in a lot of areas. And I've known people that have taken a lot more tests before they got hired, because not everyone's fortunate to get hired on the first test, the second test. And back in the 90s, there was a lot more candidates. Right now, in the year 2021, the number of candidates that are applying for fire departments, whether it's the San Francisco Bay Area where I'm at, or even from what I hear from around the country, is a lot less, significantly less than what we used to see in the 90s and other previous timeframes or eras. So yeah, don't worry about me, worry about you. But anyway, back to this guy here. I was expecting the guy to say he took 30 tests, 40 tests, then he threw in the towel. He goes, yeah, I took about 4 or 5 tests. I'm like, 4 or 5 tests? I go, so did you make the list? Meaning, did you make the top 10, top 5, top 20? Did you get a chief's interview, background investigation, all the things that mean you're on the right track? He goes, oh no. He goes, a couple times I couldn't get past the written test to even get to the oral interview. And then the others, I took the oral interview, but I didn't make it farther than that. I didn't even make it to a background investigation. He's doing this, So he didn't even get to a chief's interview, background investigation. So he didn't make the top 10. Hell, he didn't even make the top tier. Well, he goes, well, they didn't hire white guys. And I'm like, looking at my skin here, and I don't mean this in a racist way or anything else. I go, I'm a white guy and I got hired. He goes, well, you probably had a dad in the fire department or something else. I'm like, no, I didn't have any family members in the fire department. I had some family friends, but I didn't get hired by that department, and they didn't help me with this department that I got hired with. He's looking at me, he goes, well, shit, how'd you get hired then? Like I said, I took about 50 tests over the course of about 4.5 years. He's like, oh shit, well, good for you, dude. Good for you. Hit the lottery. Well, I use this story a lot when I teach my entry-level fire class, or when I teach anyone that's interested in a career in the fire service. What's the difference between me and him? Well, I didn't give up. I kept at it, and I would have kept at it if it took me even longer. I mean, I have a friend of mine that I think it took him like 110 or 13. I can't remember the number. It was well over 100 tests before he got his first fire, before he became a full-time firefighter. And I'm like, holy shit, I don't know if I could have lasted that long, or if most people would not last more than 10 tests. Most people would give up. But back to my neighbor, um, no longer my neighbor because he moved on, but if he had that chip on his shoulder to share it with me, again, we didn't know each other. We were just meeting for the first time. Yeah, we live across the street from each other, but we don't know each other. If he's that comfortable to basically talk shit and to be bitter in front of me, how do you think he probably was in his oral interviews? I bet you he probably had that chip on his shoulder in his orals. And I've seen those people that come into oral interviews, they got a chip on their shoulder. They leave your baggage at the front door. Well, don't even bring it to the facility. Leave your baggage at home. Bury the baggage in the backyard. But the point is you got to be positive. And I've talked about positivity in a number of episodes of be the person that's a glass half full, not half empty. Always have that smile on your face, passion, enthusiasm, but never give up. Have the tenacity, have the persistence, have that willingness to see things through. If it truly is a dream of yours to be whatever, be a firefighter, become an engineer, get promoted to captain, become a fire chief, you're not going to give up. You're not going to let people tell you no for an answer. Well, it's easy though, because it's easier to bitch and complain and blame others than it is to look at yourself in the mirror. Take a look at anyone successful in today's world, in any line of work, sports, government, private industry, Nobel Peace Prize winners, entrepreneurs. Most, if not every one of them, have had significant amount of failure in their life. Why? Because they tried. And number one, they tried, they failed, they dusted themselves off, and they went at it again. Sometimes the same way, sometimes a different path, sometimes trying something different. Well, plan B didn't work. I'll go to plan C. I'm going to go to plan X now. There's actually a famous video that I like to share in classes when I have time. It's called, if you go to YouTube, Famous Failures, I think it's called. It's a little dated, but Famous Failures. And it goes through all these famous people in life, like Michael Jordan, famous athletes, famous people, Thomas Edison, Ben Franklin. I think all these people you wouldn't think of that are famous. And you look at some of the adversity or the challenges or the gut punches that they had given to them. And they could have easily just taken their marbles and left, or cried in a circle in the fetal position and blamed everybody else. Oh my, what was me? Versus saying, you know what? Hey, guess what? That didn't work out. Let's retool. Let's try plan B. Let's see what we need to do to get there. So never give up, I think, is key. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. If it truly is your dream, whatever it is, you're not going to give up. But if you give up, maybe that shows your true colors. I love it when I hear people that are going for, say, a promotional exam. And sometimes they take it 2, 3, 4 times. They're persistent. Then all of a sudden, I'll ask them, hey, how'd you do on the last captain's test? Shit, 4th test, I didn't even pass it. Or I came out number 5, they promoted 4. Or I was number 1, they passed me over. Fuck this. Well, you getting ready for the next test? Nope, screw them. I'll show them. I love when people say, I'll show them. Well, guess what you're showing? When you don't take the next test, you are showing them something, your true colors, your true character. And guess what? It probably was a smart thing that you're bowing out and not continuing, because if that's your leadership ability, meaning when the chips are down and things get tough, that you just sort of curl in a fetal position and just throw in the white towel, give up, and just go running for mommy or daddy. If that's your true color, then you know what? You weren't meant to be in that position to begin with, because we need people in any position, especially leadership positions, company officer, all the way up to fire chief, that are willing to not give up. Because you know what? How do you like it if your fire chief comes to you, the chips are down, let's say the budget sucks, the city council's looking at shutting down a firehouse, laying some people off, and here comes the fire chief. Hey, guess what, everybody? We're fucked. I'm quitting. I'm going to retire right now. I'd recommend all of you guys probably retire if you want to save yourself, because you know what? This ship is crashing and burning, and you know what? I want nothing to do with it. Is that leadership? Oh, God, no. You want good, solid leadership that's transparent, honest, and open, but also not covering up things, hiding things, and not giving up. The old saying goes, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it and doing it well, but they're not. Most of the decisions we make as leaders company officers, chief officers, most of the decisions, overwhelming, are pretty friggin' easy decisions. What's for lunch? What's for dinner? You know, I mean, that's the decision we make every day at the firehouse. Most of our decisions are easy. Very few are the tough ones. But when it comes time to make those tough decisions, that's when the true leaders come out. Because think about it. If you don't believe in yourself, who will? If you're not going to believe in yourself and you give up, then you know what? You just convinced us you probably were not meant for that position. So I like to say this way, because a lot of people go, well, how many times, when should I throw in the towel, Steve? You know, I've taken the test 3 times, 5 times, 6 times. Hey, I can't answer that question. Only you can. But what I can say is that if you give up, guess what? Your dream is over. So you know what? Make the best of what you got. Be happy. Don't bitch. Don't be bitter. Don't be complaining. Or, well, I know it's more fun to bitch and complain for some people. Be a recliner sniper. Be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So persistence, tenacity, and perseverance, among other things, are traits of successful people in life. Hey, the ball's in your court. Will you let others tell you that you won't ever make it? Because we've had a lot of people that are successful in life have been told by others, you're never going to account to anything. And then, of course, they showed them, and they found those people that believed in them, and they believed in themselves. Or will you decide that on your own and give it your full commitment? So as always, everybody, thank you very much for the gift of your time. Excuse me. Until the next episode, be safe, take care, and